Welcome back. It's episode 24. We're Owls Walk. We've got Matt and Tom back with us. It's the FA Cup. We've exited, but does anybody actually care? We'll be talking a little bit about that and Jamal Lowe. And we're also starting our trawl for the worst ever Sheffield Wednesday 11. It's January, so what else is there to do? Starting with goalkeepers. More on that at the end, but our main topic this week is, has Danny Röhl submitted his requests for January? There's rumours out there, very speculative rumours, that perhaps he hasn't done. We'll get into that with Matt and Tom right now. First of all, thank you very much for joining us. Drop a subscribe below. Right, Matt. Social media, you know what it's like. Lots of speculation. Danny is saying that he's ready to sign players, but rumours are that perhaps that's not quite as accurate as he would lead us to believe. What's the latest on this?
So there's been, I think, just for wider context of it, Mark, there appears to have been a bit of a standoff between the club and Danny over the past couple of weeks. In regards to, he seems to be insinuating that the club are slow in picking up kind of like their end of the bargain with regards to signings of transfers. And he's come out in statements over the past couple of weeks and just said, when people have asked, is there anything close or any in the pipeline, he's just batted it back simply with no, which is very rare that you get a one-word answer from a manager and being that blunt. Normally they try and kind of, obviously, I'd say probably politicise it a little bit, but he's very much not done so. We have a fans forum on this week, Wednesday. So as of recording this, it's Monday the 13th of January. We have a fans forum on the Wednesday, which is, I think there's an obligation from the club to hold them, but it's the first time that fans have had an audience with the chairman in about 2 years, unless you were emailing him last year. There was an article that was, or there was a tweet that was sent out yesterday from Matt, who is Football Typer. He's at Football Typer on X. Again, some of the content that he's produced over the years has been really, really good and does give you an insight into a little bit more of the inner workings and thinkings behind the club. But the comment that was released from that particular account had claimed that Danny hasn't actually passed on his targets to the club, and the insinuation was, once Danny has done so, you can get going. That obviously caused a bit of a stir yesterday on the Sheffield Wednesday social media. The only thing that I suppose I would say about it is, I mean, if that statement is true, because obviously I don't know the validity of it, if that statement is true, this would be the first time in the history a football manager doesn't know his areas of weakness and what players he wants to go out and sign. It just seems a very baffling statement. And if you troll through the comments on that, it seems to be when people are directly questioning Matt surrounding it. So he hasn't identified players or doesn't know his areas of need. Matt has replied with both. Now, I don't know what Matt's line into the club or where this comes from, or whether this is, just a smokescreen or whatever. But to actually sort of publicly state that, when I think everybody is pretty much of the understanding the truth is somewhere in the middle between the chairman and the manager. And this is, I suppose, the culmination of what happens when you don't have a recruitment setup in the club. Like we don't, it's pretty much chairman and manager. And if there's a disagreement, this is how it all plays out, sadly, in public and through statements and through people who claim to know this and claim to know that. So just a bit of a mess at the minute, Mark, is how I would describe it. But yeah.
Okay. I mean, crikey, there should be no. Thanks for that, Matt. Tom, there should be no excuse, really, should there, for a manager in the 13th of January not knowing or not submitting a list of targets, if it is true, of course, because he can watch any Sheffield Wednesday podcast, including this one, for the last 2 weeks, and they'll be telling him what you need. What's your take on it?
Yeah, it's a bit weird that there's contradicting kind of statements, and then if you see in his interviews, it's a bit different to what's kind of coming out. But as Matt mentioned, if we see at the fans forum what's going to go down, because there's always fireworks when Mr. Chansiri is speaking to the fans. So yeah, we'll see what happens then. But we definitely need a couple of defenders, at least centre halves. There's rumours that Ehekwe might be going out on loan. And then we're also interested in, I think, a couple of Australian strikers, which I'm not sure if that'll come to fruition. But yeah, we definitely need some players, especially in defence. So yeah, let's see what happens on Wednesday, and then hopefully Danny can get someone in.
Okay. All right, we'll watch this space. First of all, thank you very much for explaining all of that without getting into any kind of litigation whatsoever. First of all, a big shout out to all the Sheffield Wednesday fans that went to Coventry. Those limbs when that goal went in the 93rd minute, the videos of that are absolutely stunning. What a shame though, Matt, you didn't go on and clinch the penalty shootout. Any issues with any of those penalties taken? Would you want to shout out Jamal at all?
I think the biggest issue, Mark, is the fact that we scored in the 93rd minute and I had to stand there and freeze for another half an hour, 45 minutes. I think that was my biggest issue with it, to be perfectly honest. I mean, in terms of the penalties, us as Sheffield Wednesday fans have cried out for a penalty for over half a season, and it's a good job we didn't get one, to be perfectly honest with you, Mark, because we seem to be appalling at taking them. The Jamal Lowe one, it is a poor penalty. The Olaf Kabatsky one is a poor penalty. One of whom is, an established championship forward who you would anticipate does better. I think he just gets it all wrong, and you can see from when he was walking back, he knew how poor the penalty was. So it's pointless digging him out, to be perfectly honest with you. The Olaf Kabatsky one, this is a player who it's his first game since, I want to say, September or October. He looked rusty, to say the least, and also a player who we spoke about, obviously, at the start of the season, who we've plucked from the Polish second or third tier. So nobody's really expecting fireworks from them. It was frustrating, but I did think it was quite interesting because this was the first penalty shootout that I think I've watched involving Sheffield Wednesday where legitimately, Mark, I have not cared realistically about the outcome. It was a really odd feeling because ultimately, I went to the game. I really like the FA Cup. I still think there's a lot of good that comes out of the FA Cup. But ultimately, when obviously Bissett stuck the ball in the corner past Piers Charles and wheeled away, taking his shirt off because they'd won the FA Cup, I was just very much like, fine, it is what it is. Like there's no issue whatsoever.
Okay. I don't get the call out of Jamal Lowe. I mean, here's some of Hannah saying Jamal Lowe's not a footballer. Jamal Lowe and Ugbo are the same person. We can't keep, can we, Tom, digging out players like this? I mean, that's a very small highlight of some other unsavoury comments on Twitter about Jamal Lowe. I hopefully the players don't read X. I hope they stay well away from that. But are we becoming a bit of there's other fan bases far worse than yours for this. But are you becoming a fan base that's too reactionary?
I think it's just a kind of general football fan thing now, especially on social media. But I mean, it was a poor penalty, but again, players miss penalties. And then it is in the FA Cup third round against Coventry. It's not in the playoff final. So it's a bit of an overreaction. I was mainly just disappointed for Piers Charles because I thought he had a really good game. Yeah. He had like a great double save and then save one of the penalties as well. You just, hoping we go through just for his sake. But at the end of the day, when I think Coventry got Ipswich, I'm not too sure, but it kind of softened the blow. Yeah, that if they got a Liverpool or someone, you might have been, wish we were still in it. But Ipswich, I'm not that bothered about. So, focus on the league.
All right, let's focus on the league we shall then, and let's focus on Leeds United, shall we? Because they're the ones that are coming up this Sunday. First of all, it's on ITV, Matt. It's on free to view. Football is free to view this weekend. I mean, they've chosen two of the biggest clubs greedily to put on the channel. I mean, ITV are terrible for football. I've never thought they were any good, but it should be a good game. It's I think hopefully be a lot closer than the last time you played them. You'll remember that Friday night game, won't you?
Yes, 2-0, and we didn't touch the ball, Mark. I remember it very well.
Yes, yeah. There's the side that played on that Friday night. I think it was the third or fourth game of the season. How different does Wednesday look now, over 5 months into the season from when they played Leeds in August?
The playing
in terms
style,
of personnel and position.
I think the playing style is more cemented, and we've got probably a few more strings to our bow in terms of the playing style as opposed to what we did have, obviously, when we played them earlier on in the season. The worry is obviously that back line. When you look at that back line, you've got Iorfa, Valerie, Bernard, Lowe. Now, Valerie, Bernard and Lowe are fit, but that's currently our three centre-back pairings. And I think the other thing with Wednesday, obviously, it is important to kind of state the system is so fluid, and Danny has us playing so fluid that actually when we're in possession, Max Lowe spends a lot of his time at central defensive midfield. So it is really interchangeable. Yeah, I think it will be an interesting game, but there is still quite a large portion of me that does think, because of the strength of Leeds, in particular at home, and I'm not talking about the squad strength, because anybody can look at the squads on paper and see that in terms of transfer value. I'm talking about the way in which that they play football. Leeds like to dominate and dictate the ball. We actually, myself and Glyn, I'm sure, Tom, you would probably echo this as well, we probably have had some of our better performances this season where we haven't really had the ball. And we allow a side to kind of come on to us and then hit on the break. That is very much dependent on kind of what way the wind's blowing with our forwards, in terms of whether they are on song and making the right decisions. But consistently over the course of the season, we have seen for big atmospheric games, both Jeddy Gassama and Anthony Masaba fire themselves up beyond something silly for it, and usually play really, really well with a relatively informed Josh Windass. Shea Charles is more embedded, obviously, into the system. Bannon, obviously, still doing what he does. Nathaniel Chalobah potentially playing at the base of that midfield and making it a 3 to actually stop the spaces that opened up for people like Willie Nonto on the earlier game. It should make it more competitive. I will say, Mark, if you offered me a draw now, I'd bite your hand off for it.
Of course, for those of you who don't know, we cover every single team across the Terrace Tour networks. That means we have a Leeds equivalent to this. Now, they are very worried about this game. They are not in a good moment at this moment in time. They aren't scoring particularly. They only narrowly got past Harrogate in the last game against Blackburn. They drew against Blackburn. I mean, yes, they're top of the league and they've got things to worry about, but they are genuinely concerned about this game. Tom, could this be? I don't want to say it, but this might be your best chance to go there and put one over on them.
Yeah, you don't want to jinx it, but I think we do play a bit better away from home sometimes when we don't have the ball. So I think we could get something, especially if they're not in the greatest of form. I think also that Danny, the first game, I think is how he wants to play in the future, but I don't think we have the players at the moment. So he's actually adapted, and I think this 3 at the back, I'm not sure if he'll want to do that if he stays next season, but I think it suits us at the moment, seeing as we don't have our defenders in. And then, as Matt mentioned, Shea Charles coming in make a big difference. So I think we just got to frustrate them and then hit them on the break, because I think, as you mentioned, they haven't been scoring that much. So it's more just with our defenders, whether a few centre-backs out, whether that'll make the difference or not.
Okay. All right, then. Before we move on, drop us a subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're looking for 100 subscribers. If you can get there, we're so close. We're nearly there. We've got 20 more to go. Can you help us push us over the line? This week we asked AI to look at Sheffield Wednesday's fixture list and look at the home games in particular and make a prediction as how many points Wednesday would get based on AI's knowledge of Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, it hasn't watched any of it this year. Here's what it said. I mean, first of all, guys, let's have a look at your home games. I think there's some really winnable games in there. You've got that difficult kind of period in March, haven't you? When you've got Sunderland, and then obviously the Blades come on the 15th, which will be a fascinating one. But then all the others, Bristol City, Luton, Coventry themselves, Hull, Oxford, even Borough, who are out of form, and Portsmouth, they're winnable, aren't they, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at that list there, I'm just looking at how wrong AI seems to have got some of these, because they're anticipating that this is just going to go to form.
20 points. I mean, you're going to lose against Sheffield United and Borough. Would you take that list now? Just 2 losses and get 20 points, even if it's a loss to the Blades?
Put you on the spot there.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I bet Tom's thrilled that I've got this one. That is the only one that is in there where I do look at it and think you cannot have that. I can't sit here in good faith. I'm sorry, Mark. I can't sit here in good faith and say we're not going to finish on 21 points. To be honest, like looking at it, as you say, it's strange because at the start of the season we had a really, really difficult run of fixtures of either recently relegated sides or sides that you expected to be up there. And then since probably mid-ish October, start of November, we've had a relatively favourable run of form. Towards the back end of the season, we don't really have either. We have just a mix of those fixtures all kind of like combusted and juggled and jumbled together. I don't look at that and think that is out of the realms of possibility by any stretch, but I do still think that there is some work to do on our home form because, as Tom rightly said, we are better away from home still. I just can't sit here with good conscience, Mark, and say that we're going to lose to them lot down the road.
Okay. it would put you on 58 points. Well, it would put you on 57 points plus the away points to come as well. So what are we looking at for playoffs? 65, 70, something like that. It's not too out of reach, but yeah, no. Weird, isn't it? I'm offering you how many wins there? 6 wins out of the next 10, and you're still not taking it because one of them is not against your bitterest rivals. Okay. Finally, this week, then it's January. It's rubbish. It's cold. Everyone's skint. So we're having a bit of fun. And over the next 4 weeks, we're going to create together with Matt, Glyn, and Tom our worst ever Sheffield Wednesday 11 for the last 20 years. The Championship is 20 years old this season. So looking back, and also the League One years as well. So we're going to kick off with we need a goalkeeper, if that's okay. From both of you. So we're looking for who's been the worst person you've ever seen put on a green top for Sheffield Wednesday. Tom, can you kick this one off for us?
Yeah, it's actually, to be fair, I think since I've been watching Wednesday, we've actually had quite a few decent goalkeepers, which is
it's your fault.
Even from Lee Grant, Westwood, like quite a few decent ones. But I think the one season where we went down, I don't think Wildsmith was great in the COVID year. I think that was very poor. But yeah, just from hearing about, I think Brad Jones and I think maybe Bywater, I've heard some not great shouts. But I think Wildsmith in that season more recently was pretty poor.
Okay, I think lots of people listening to this will be nodding their head along with that one, Tom. Yeah. Matt,
I would echo that because of when we just sorry to digress a little bit. When we watched the COVID season, you could obviously hear what players were saying. Yeah. Joe Wildsmith let an absolute P roller in against QPR, and you could just hear Bannon say "Joe," and then the rest of it was all still audible. But yeah, it was quite funny. Can I have Mark a player who left in 2005?
I think we'll count that because it's still championships. Yeah, you're just in the championship window there, aren't we? Yeah.
Then the only answer to this question can be Ola Tidman, who was, oh my word, god awful. And again, as Tom rightly says, he was probably just at the start of my time of following kind of like Sheffield Wednesday and like conscious. And I remember thinking, oh my word, is he absolutely awful, like just really poor, really struggled. He was at us for 2 seasons and made 13 appearances. Not great. But again, as Tom says, we've had Kieran Westwoods, we've had some, Lee Grant, Brad Jones, we've had some fantastic goalkeepers, Mark Crosley scoring headers, out jumping Gareth Bale. Like we've been really blessed in the goalkeeping department, and definitely at the minute with James Beadle, Pierce Charles and Ben Hamer, like I'd argue maybe the strongest goalkeeping department in the division.
It's a good set, isn't it? That, yeah, absolutely. I was going to argue that perhaps Burnley had, but Lackey made that bit of an error at the weekend, of course, didn't he?
Okay. Melier as well, I think.
And both Sheffield clubs out of the cup in the third round. It's rare that happens, but Tom, you could care less about the FA Cup.
No, I mean, I always want to go as far as possible, but as I mentioned, seeing as they got Ipswich, I think when you see Plymouth getting Liverpool, that's when you kind of think, I wish we got. Premier League team, home or away. But the last few years, we've also got pretty poor draws. And I'm sick of playing Coventry. So we've only got to wait, I think, a month, and we got them again. So that would be great.
All right. Listen to you two. Thank you very much for all your comments. Thank you, of course, all over for watching. Drop us a subscribe if you haven't done yet. So already, we know we keep asking, but we want to get over that 100 mark. That means so much to us. It means that we exist and we're there. Thank you very much. Enjoy the game against Leeds. We'll be watching on Sunday, live on ITV and putting up with the world's worst commentary, as usually it provides. See you then. Enjoy the Leeds game.